Tonight, Lagos Magodo Phase 2 estate crisis deepens. Governor Sanwo-Olu moves to douse tension, invites all parties to a meeting tomorrow. It's a day of mourning in Kaduna State as 24 people are killed by bandits in separate attacks on 14 villages, 7 of the victim members of the same family. Our review of year 2021 continues, and today we will turn the spotlight on the presidency. And UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says challenging weeks ahead as the country's daily coronavirus caseload crosses 200,000 for the first time. Plus, international news from our London studio.
On business news tonight, OPEC Plus agrees to continue planned oil output increase from February.
And on sports news tonight, 3-time African champions conclude training in Abuja, set to depart for the African Cup of Nations in Cameroon on Wednesday.
And from Abuja, poor compliance to COVID-19 protocols as civil servants return to work in the nation's capital after the Christmas and New Year holidays.
It has been a long-standing matter, but today the standoff between the parties to the land dispute at the Magodo Phase 2 estate in Lagos took a different dimension. This came as the Residents Association members gathered in front of the estate, bearing placards demanding the intervention of the state government following the presence of policemen and bailiffs who were out to enforce the judgment of the Supreme Court. In an answer to that call, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu promptly visited the area and invited all parties in the crisis to a meeting in his office tomorrow to find a solution to the crisis.
In the late 1970s and early 1980s, in this particular case, the land in dispute was said to be owned by indigents who inhabited the area and inherited it from their forefathers, up until when they were allegedly asked to vacate the land by the state government at the time to be used for public purposes. They weren't satisfied and headed to the courts, where they got a Supreme Court judgment in their favor in the year 2012. They want enforcement, and that has led to a face-off. For current residents, they say continuous harassment by security officials who are said to be implementing court orders restoring the land to its original owners is uncalled for and is illegal.
You will recall that we came out on the 21st to protest against the presence of armed policemen in our estates. We came out to protest against the marking by Adeiga and Co. purportedly sent by a group of people to come and take possession of our properties.
The seriousness of the matter, as well as the potential for a breakdown of law and order, has brought Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu to the area.
Can you call your superior in Abuja and tell them that the governor is here and I'm the chief security officer and that you don't have any business being in my state right now and that I want you to disengage forthwith from here?
It is not my duty to call because I'm too low to do that, sir.
I'll make 2 phone calls, right? One to the Inspector General of Police. I have spoken with him this morning and he says he knows nothing about the fact that they're still here. Very illegal operation. They have absolutely nothing, and I'm the chief security of the state. Not even with the Inspector General wrote me, and before I said Jack Robinson, his men are here. They're not from the Lagos State Police Command, like you have said, right? They are not from Lagos State Police Command. It says it's coming from Abuja, and I don't know what other interest do they have beyond just keeping peace of the country.
Governor Sanwo-Olu then goes to consult with some authorities before returning to make an announcement.
I've spoken extensively with the Inspector General of Police, the Honorable Attorney General, and we've resolved all of the issues. Tomorrow, we'll be inviting, the representative of the of the judgment creditors, the reps. We have actually started a committee meeting, but I want to invite them again officially to my office tomorrow by 11 o'clock.
Away from the estate, a representative of the original landlords of Shangisha raises the issues that have brought his people to this situation.
In 1985, our houses that were built on the land were demolished by the then military governor of Lagos State, claiming that the area will be used for international hospital and other programs that will benefit the masses. After the demolition, we find out that the area is being laid out and being shared by civil servants and eminent Nigerian citizens.
This is not the first time an attempt aimed at enforcing court orders has been made. On 21st December 2021, an attempt was made to enforce the Supreme Court order of 2012, prompting the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice in Lagos State, Mayosore Onigbanjo, to issue a statement clarifying that the order being talked about talks about reallocation of 549 plots of land in the area and not repossession of land, which is what the original landowners are doing. All eyes will now be on the meeting of 5th January 2022, where residents of the estate, officers of the Nigerian Police Force, and members of the original Landlords Association of Shangisha are expected to arrive at a mutually beneficial conclusion for all parties.
Let's turn to security and the situation in Kaduna State, where bandits have killed 7 members of the same family during a late-night attack on Sabon Birnin village in Igabi local government area. According to the locals, the bandits invaded the community and started shooting sporadically, killing 7 members of the same family. A community leader told Channels Television that many residents have fled the village for fear of being attacked or killed. Meanwhile, about 17 people have been killed in a separate attack by bandits on 13 other villages in Karawa ward, also in Igabi local government area. A resident said the attacks were carried out simultaneously in the villages. Meanwhile, 2 of the bandits have been neutralized by security operatives deployed to the area following the attacks in Igabi local government. The killing of the 2 bandits comes on the heels of the killing of several people in Karawa and Sabon Birnin villages in Igabi and Zaria local government areas by bandits. According to Mr. Samuel Arawan, the bandits were intercepted and killed around the outskirts of Tumbo village in Karawa while they were retreating to the Malul forest. In Zamfara State, 97 kidnapped victims, including 7 pregnant women, 19 2 to 7 months old babies, and 16 2 to 7-year-old children have been rescued unconditionally. The State Police Commissioner, Mr. Ayuba Elkana, made this known at a press briefing in Guzo, the Zamfara State capital. He explained that all the victims are currently receiving medical treatment from state government hospitals and will be debriefed by the state government officials before being reunited with their families. The president will be remembered for the way he managed his threefold agenda. President Muhammadu Buhari had promised to counter insecurity, improve the economy, and fight corruption. However, it was not all smooth sail for him in 2021, and our State House correspondent, Gloria Umezuke, has been reviewing the presidency in the past year. So, Gloria, tell us what you came up with right about now.
Well, thank you, Ayo. The issues as contained in our review of the presidency are mostly protracted ones, Ayo, revolving around security and, critically, the provision of infrastructure. And in this report we're about to show you, we illuminate the 3 focal areas of economy, corruption and insecurity that the current administration set out to address in 2015 and some of the efforts undertaken by the federal government in the last 1 year. Let's take a look at this report.
My fellow countrymen and women.
The year began with strong declarations by the president designed to reinvigorate hope.
We saw this year put to test our national resilience.
The president illuminated 3 focus areas for 2021: security, the economy, and anti-corruption. Events that unfolded days after was a testament that the president was out to translate those words into action, beginning with the appointment of new service chiefs, and his mandate to them was to address the surge in insecurity. Every year typically has a few defining moments, and the last one was no exception. The federal government took delivery of its first batch of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine on March 2, and President Muhammadu Buhari was among the first persons to receive the jab, primarily to quell nationwide hesitancy. If the event of the first week of March was a high watermark for Nigeria, the spate of abductions that followed in the days after certainly doused it. The federal government promised that the over 300 student abduction in Zamfara would be the last. But months down the line, reality hit differently, raising questions about the military strategy.
To solve the problem of insecurity effectively, you need to cut off the supply chain. What is the supply chain? Poverty and unemployment. If you don't deal with that, even if you have all the technologies in this world, it will be compromised.
The president swung into more action by April, convening several security meetings, ordering the service chiefs to identify leaders of the bandits, and proposing 396 billion naira for the procurement of additional military hardware, as well as COVID-19 vaccines. These steps were taken as the nation was exiting her second recession in 5 years. The weekly Federal Executive Council meeting was held virtually for most of the period under review. It gave major approvals, including a 20% upward review of police salary, the tax credit scheme to boost infrastructure, approval of the National Development Plan, $1.5 billion contract for the rehabilitation of the Port Harcourt refinery, as well as $1.48 billion for that of the Warri and Kaduna refinery. Other major presidential assents and approvals include the signing of the Petroleum Industry Bill into law in August, the 2021 Finance Bill, 982 billion supplementary budget into law as the president withheld assent to the Electoral Amendment Bill. Less than 2 years left in his administration, President Buhari made several international visits to the United Kingdom, France, Turkey, and New York for the United Nations General Assembly, where he championed calls for more support towards addressing corruption and insecurity. In a most assertive move, the president, by the second half of 2021, sacked 2 of his ministers, that of Power and Agriculture, for the first time since 2015, and subsequently took time to review the performance of each ministry.
You must bear in mind that the National Economic Council, your governing council, and Nigerians as a whole will hold you accountable for this mandate.
The last 1 year has contained so many paradigm-shifting developments that has continued to redefine the country's activities. In 2021, it was for the first time we saw the president consider giving pardon to IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu, and also a posthumous pardon to 9 Ogoni activists, including Ken Saro-Wiwa, 26 years after they were executed. Again, in keeping with his promise to maintain a January to December budget cycle, the president signed the 17.126 trillion naira 2022 appropriation bill into law, even though it was with a lot of displeasure over major changes made by the National Assembly. With less than 17 months before the current administration wraps up, what critically resonates for the presidency is effectively continuing with the fulfillment of the 3-pronged mandate of quelling insecurity, tackling corruption, and lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty through a thriving economy. From the presidential villa,
Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Well, let's quickly join Ayo Tunde in Lagos for more on the news at 10.
Well, that's a very interesting report there, Gloria. And of course, we will definitely be continuing with our focus on the presidency. And that's in part 2 after the break. Of course, our review of year 2021 continues. And stay with us as we focus on the presidency. We'll be right back. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Lagos Magodo Phase 2 estate crisis deepens. Governor Sanwo-Olu moves to douse tension, invites all parties to a meeting tomorrow. It's a day of mourning in Kaduna State as 24 people are killed by bandits in separate attacks on 14 villages. 7 of the victim members are of the same family. Our review of year 2021 continues, and today we will turn the spotlight on the presidency. And UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says challenging weeks ahead as the country's daily coronavirus caseload crosses 200,000 for the first time. So let's now take a further look on our review of the presidency in the year 2021. And we are now being joined by a Professor of Public Administration, Professor Isaac Obasi. Glad to have you on the News at 10. How would you assess the performance of the presidency in 2021, Professor?
Well, thank you, Ayo. It's a loaded year of activities. I will simply say that a lot of activities took place in terms of what we regard as output in policy studies. But Nigerians are more interested in the outcome of those policy outputs. It is in that side of it that you get transformational impact on the lives of people. We can say that the activities that took place under the president last year were incremental, building on things that already have started. But the problem Nigeria's system or situation or governance in general has is that the trajectory is not delivering transformational successes or impacts. And so if we make incremental impacts, it's not transformational enough. Let me use the slogan that this APC used the second term when they were seeking renewal of their tenure. Take Nigeria to the next level. So many Nigerians will say, oh, my life has not moved to the next level, and because of it. So even if you list 100 achievements, as the Minister of Information did last time, people will say, how does this affect me? And these are what people will be looking at. So let's use that as an entry point to say, more of outputs are there, but what we call the outcome are yet to feel. Nigerians are yet to feel more of the outcome.
Now, the president has less than 17 months to the end of his tenure, and in view of the fact that this year is going to be, preoccupied with political activities, do you see the presidency making any significant progress on its agenda?
Yes, I have to be optimistic because Nigerians need to be hopeful to be able to get along with life. If we are pessimistic, that would be terrible. The pressure will be much on him to deliver. And there are many areas, the economy, the security, the anti-corruption. These are tripods which he himself fixed since he came to power. So everybody's watching to see how. He himself said the other day that it is possible to achieve this, within 17 months. And if that is a statement from the presidency, will be hoping that indeed they will not use politics as an excuse not to deliver. Because there are many things that have started, like I said, that have not transformed into outcome. People want to see their life, move to the next level. I give you a simple example. 33% of Nigerians are unemployed. We translate to about 28.17 million Nigerians. So whatever you say you have achieved, and many people are still unemployed, they will not see that as, you know, a significant achievement. You go to inflation, even though it has been declining, you know, incrementally over the quarters, but inflation of 15.40% is still very high. And people, if you say it's declining, they want to see it in the foodstuffs and things they buy in the market. So these are the issues that are involved. Not necessarily that the government is not doing anything. People are doing things. In the security realm, a lot of things have been said. And for instance, in the review, Gloria Mexico, you know, put forward this evening, we could see that a lot of things have been on the table. But people want to see how does that reflect. If I want to travel to Kaduna, how, for instance, the jets that have been bought affect my security on the way. So people want to see that affecting their life. These are the kind of transformational impact that we expect the government, the administration to make in this last 11th hour of its period.
All right, Professor Isaac Obase, Professor of Public Administration, thank you for your thoughts here on the News at 10.
Thank you. Ayo.
So let's head over to the nation's capital, where Gloria Umezuka is standing by to give us the very latest from our Abuja studios. Gloria.
Hello, Ayo, once again. So there's poor compliance to the COVID-19 protocols as civil servants in the nation's capital resumed work after the Yuletide and New Year holidays. The federal government had issued an order mandating civil servants to get vaccinated before accessing their offices from December the 1st, 2021. Our correspondent, Kayla Megwa, revisited the Federal Secretariat, which houses most of the ministries, departments and agencies, and now reports.
The hustle is back on in the nation's capital. The roads are busy again. Major traffic spots such as the Area 1 roundabout are seeing their usual throng of commuters heading to work in different parts of the nation's capital. We enter the old secretariat without incident, and there are very few civil servants in sight. The roads around the Federal Secretariat have resumed their usual bustle as workers alight from buses to resume work in their different ministries and agencies. At the Federal Secretariat Bullet House, which houses the head of service, it is also a slow trickle to work, with very little adherence to non-pharmaceutical guidelines for COVID-19. People are seen entering without wearing masks, and no one is being sanitized at the entrance. The story is similar at the other wing of the Federal Secretariat. Some civil servants came to work with their vaccination cards, ready to be checked at the entrance, as was announced by the federal government in the beginning of December 2021.
According to what we were expecting, they said 1st December, we are going to use our nose masks, and if you don't have the card, you ask to go back. But for me, I've taken my first dose. My COVID-19 dose.
Did they check you as you were entering?
No.
One of the security guards explains why the checks are not being done.
We advise them to go and haste off and do it.
So you're not turning them back?
Not yet.
So when do you think they'll start turning them back?
Until federal government will give such order.
But until then, you just advise people
to go and complete it.
It is the very first official working day for the year 2022. People are not coming out as much as we thought they would, but not a bad turnout for the first working day of the year. As the days go by, more people who are on holiday will be coming back to the nation's capital and will be resuming work here. But for a nation's capital that has been literally asleep for the past few weeks, today's turnout shows that the hustle and bustle of Abuja has begun in earnest. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
In the spirit of the new year and his second anniversary in office coming up in a few days, The governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodimma, has asked all stakeholders in the state politics to support his administration. He specifically mentioned one of his predecessors, Senator Rochas Okorocha, in his appeal, saying that the state has only one governor and that he should be allowed to govern. The governor, however, refused to mention names of sponsors of violence in the state, instead asked that security agencies should be allowed to do their work.
Former Deputy Governor is here with us.
The attendance at the 5th Imo State Stakeholders Meeting and luncheon comprises political and public office holders, as well as prominent citizens representing various professional and interest groups.
We must reconcile.
Imo State has witnessed a barrage of security threats recently. This is one of the highlights of Governor Uzodimma's address. He had vowed to mention sponsors of violence in the state at the stakeholders meeting. He, however, makes a U-turn. Instead, he asked the security agencies should be allowed to do their work.
You will recall that as a government, we have repeatedly maintained that some of the security breaches were politically contrived. This was based on intelligence. And I don't want to spoil the good work the security agencies are doing already. I want to crave your indulgence. So let us allow the security agencies to finish their investigation, arrest those who are responsible, and charge them to court.
Earlier, in a statement signed by his chief press secretary, the governor had said some suspects in custody of the security agencies had identified Senator Rochas Okorocha and his son-in-law, Uche Nwosu, as being behind the spate of violence witnessed in the state.
The difference between the other former governors and Okorocha is that he is out of office, but he still wants to be in office. I don't want to join issues with him. Let him just know that he's no longer the governor. And for the short period I will be here, God's willing, he should allow me to answer the governor I am.
Governor Hope Uzodimma also used the occasion to highlight some of his achievements as he approaches his second anniversary in office, especially in infrastructure.
I'm happy to inform you that no fewer than 90 roads are either under construction, completed, or about to be completed. The roads cut across the urban and rural areas and the 3 senatorial zones of the state. Of the 99 roads, 32 are fully completed and commissioned.
Governor Uzodimma asked all stakeholders in Imo State to set aside their grievances and support his administration towards the advancement of the state.
Let's put our hands together for our...
Meanwhile, former governor of Imo State and senator representing Imo West Senatorial District, Rochas Okorocha, has been reacting to the just concluded Imo stakeholders meeting organized by the Imo State government. In a statement signed by his media advisor, Senator Okorocha says with the outcome of the stakeholders meeting, the Uzodimma-led administration had made Imo State a laughingstock. He says the government has become an embarrassment to Imo State and her people, having failed to name the sponsors of insecurity in the state, which presented a situation where the governor and his chief press secretary have contradicted themselves. Well, River State Governor Nyesom Wike says no one is marginalizing the people of the Niger Delta, but the people of the region themselves. According to him, while the federal government can be held liable in many areas, the people who execute the plots are indigents of the region. Governor Wike was speaking at the 30th celebration of Ogoni Day in River State, where he condemned Ogoni leaders for betraying the cause of the martyrs, Ken Saruwiwa, and 8 others executed by a military junta in 1995.
Every January 4, the people of Ogoni land, who occupy 4 local government areas in the River Southeast Senatorial District, gather at their traditional headquarters in Bori to promote their rights. It's the 30th edition and a time for the movement for the survival of Ogoni people. to reflect on the struggles for environmental and social justice, for which 9 of their leaders, including environmental rights activist Ken Saro-Wiwa, paid the supreme price 26 years ago.
Partisan politics should use those agitations to get the benefits of the agitation for the benefit of the Ogoni people. Most of can only shout that we are being cheated, but the politicians should use those their think tanks and the politics to get those rewards for our people. So we can coexist, and we should coexist, my brothers and sisters.
This year's celebration attracts solidarity from other minority groups in the Niger Delta region.
The John Nation is resolute in our solidarity with the Mosop cause for environmental justice, resource control, and self-determination.
All ethnic nationalities in River State, beyond the boundaries of River State, South Nigeria, we all stand by you, we support you.
For Governor Nyesom Wike, who was a special guest at this year's event, it's time for some home truth. He accuses the Ogoni people of being their own enemies.
The people of Niger Delta are marginalizing themselves. Nobody can buy me. Nobody can buy me. Governors of Niger Delta are not working together. Ministers are not working together. Chairmen are not working together. Traditional rulers are not working together. Who is marginalizing who? You sell yourself for a peanut. You sell yourself for a peanut. People like Ken, all of the people you are celebrating Ogoni Day, how many of you can today say you can stand for what Ken stood for? You can stand for the great Ogoni men who died for your friend. How many of you can say that? How many of you can say that?
With the theme, leaving no one behind, the people of Ogoni land are hoping to rebuild trust and unity to confront their challenges.
Over in Adamawa State, Governor Imo State says the role of traditional leaders in tackling the challenge of out-of-school children is crucial if the state is going to make progress in lifting its educational standards. Governor Fintere made the comment during a meeting organized by the State Ministry of Education in collaboration with the Better Education Service Delivery for All and the State Universal Education Board.
Records indicate that more than 37 million children are enrolling in the new school year in the northeastern parts of the country. However, at least 5 million more are being left behind for various reasons like insurgency, illiteracy, poverty, and others. Adamawa, one of the states in the northeastern part of the country, is with an appreciable number of out-of-school children. And for this reason, the administration of Governor Imo State has made it part of its priority to tackle educational challenges. Free education for secondary schools, free learning materials, and free feeding program are some of the measures put in place to make the dream a reality. The strategy seems to be yielding results as the number of out-of-school children in the state has gone from over 200,000 to less than 100,000. Not satisfied with these efforts, the state government, in collaboration with the Better Education Service Delivery for All, a federal government project aimed at bringing more children into the classroom, is reaching out to traditional rulers to sensitize them on the need to reach out to every out-of-school child. Traditional leaders drawn from Ganye Emirate, comprising Ganye, Jada, and Tungo local government areas of the state meet. Chairman of the Adamawa State Basic Education Board highlights some of the challenges experienced in the communities.
They developed cold feet towards Western education, thinking that maybe it's a way of Christianizing their children, as it used to be so many years ago. But Besda and Subeb tried to educate them to say that any child that is not educated is a danger to the family.
And the state coordinator, Better Education Service Delivery for All, speaks on the role of traditional leaders.
We want to generate authentic data of out-of-school children, not survey, not estimates, household mapping and profiling. When we say there are 10 out-of-school children in this ward, we know where they are. Most importantly, we need to know why are they out of school.
The state government promises to do even more to return all children back to school.
Even because of the feeding, everybody wants to come to school. All the children and all the parents want their children to come to school, at least to eat food and learn.
For traditional leaders, the meeting is a good development.
Well, the message is very clear. We have seen how our children are now roaming about, out-of-school children, and this is not healthy for all of us. So the only thing for us is to make efforts and then put heads together so that we can salvage this situation as quickly as possible.
Earlier, the team met at the palace of the chief of Ganye chiefdom, the Gwangwari Ganye, to intimate him of their visit. The traditional rulers have been mandated to pass on the information received to their communities as part of ways to reduce the number of out-of-school children in the state to the barest minimum.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to Ayotunde in Lagos.
Many thanks, Gloria. Let's now join Teniola Shoboale, who's standing by for business news.
Welcome to Business News. OPEC Plus has agreed today to stick to its plan and increase oil output by 400,000 barrels per day in February, despite concerns over the global spread of the Omicron COVID-19 infections. The move has been expected following U.S. pressure to boost supply to support global economic recovery from the pandemic, as well as lower oil prices. Oil prices climbed more than 50% last year and has rallied so far in 2022. While OPEC Plus has increased its output target each month, actual production has slowed as some members struggle with capacity constraints. OPEC Plus will hold its next meeting on February the 2nd to assess the market situation and decide its future production policy. President Muhammadu Buhari has appointed Mr. Doyin Salami as his chief economic advisor. This was made known in a statement by Special Advisor to the President, Mr. Femi Adesina. Mr. Salami is expected to develop and recommend national policies to foster macroeconomic stability, promote, create jobs and eradicate poverty, among others. Mr. Salami is the current chairman of the Presidential Economic Advisory Council. Nigeria's private sector recorded a robust expansion in December 2021 as the Purchasing Managers Index PMI hit 24-month high in the final month of the year. The latest PMI's report released by Stanbic IBTC Bank shows that faster increase in output and new orders, as well as record inventory building, were central to the improvement in the private sector growth. According to the report, the PMI rose to 56.4 last month, up from 55.0 in November, which indicates a robust overall improvement in business conditions. The report further shows that expansions was recorded on subsectors across board, with the strongest increase posted by the manufacturers, followed by the wholesale and retail, services and agriculture sectors. U.S. tech giant Google says it has acquired Israeli cybersecurity company Simplify for $500 million, marking its first acquisition in the cybersecurity industry outside the United States. Simplify, a leader in the security orchestration, automation and response field, will become part of Google's cloud security team to help companies address growing security threats. The deal follows Google's pledge last month to invest $10 billion in cybersecurity over the next 5 years to strengthen cybersecurity and increase in cyber attacks and amidst increase in cyber attacks and data breaches. The equities market opened the year 2022 in the green, kickstarting the first trading day of the week on the 43,000 level. The all-share index rose by 0.73%, adding about 887 billion naira to the market capitalization. Laddie Williams tells us more.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, the last trading day for 2021 was indeed a great way to end the year, closing over 2% up. And now, the first trading day, 2022, not looking bad as well, with the oil share index adding almost 1%. The activity chart is lower, though, compared to the previous session, with just deals in the green. We don't see as much volume, with 216 million units valued at 1.51 billion naira. Looking at the sectoral chart, it's mostly in the red. Oil and gas down 0.50%, no thanks to Adamawa losing 10% in its share price. It's just the banking index in the green, with Zenith Bank adding about 10 kobo to its share price. Academy Press led the Guinness chart, closing at 55 kobo. We also see Nemeth and Cornerstone Insurance in that counter. Adamawa led the losers counter, losing about 11 naira 70 kobo. All right, the top trades, we see the trio of Champs PLC, Wema Bank, and Zenith Bank. Both financial services were the most traded by volume. Well, it's the first trading day in 2022. Not a bad outing. Let's hope for a bullish year. And that's the Stock Market Report. I'm Ladi Williams. It's back to you.
Thanks a lot, Laddie. Meanwhile, major global stock markets ended midweek trading session with mixed sentiments across board, with the Dow Jones recording its sixth consecutive day gain, while concerns over Omicron dampened European and Asian markets' performance. Well, here are some of the closing numbers. And that's business news tonight. It's back to Ayo for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Many thanks, Tenyola. Britain's daily coronavirus caseload has crossed 200,000 for the first time as hospitals come under increasing pressure due to staff shortages. Prime Minister Boris Johnson says this is a moment for utmost caution and the weeks ahead will be challenging. For more international news, here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. An ex-Silicon Valley CEO faces up to 80 years in prison after being found guilty of defrauding investors after a months-long landmark trial in California.
Did you commit fraud? Do you have any reaction to your guilty verdict?
Elizabeth Holmes was surrounded by the media as she left court, with jurors finding her guilty on 4 counts.
Plan to appeal?
It's our actions that will determine this new stereotype.
She founded Theranos, a healthcare company which claimed it could detect conditions such as cancer and diabetes with only a few drops of blood. But prosecutors successfully argued that Holmes chose fraud over business failure.
I thank the jurors for their thoughtful and determined service that ensured verdicts could be reached. The guilty verdicts in this case reflect Ms. Holmes' culpability in this large-scale investor fraud, and she must now face sentencing for her crimes.
A 49-year-old man accused of setting fire to South Africa's Parliament building in Cape Town has appeared in court to face 5 charges, including arson and possession of an explosive device. Zandile Christmas Maffei took off his mask before staring menacingly at photographers as he stood in the courtroom. Prosecutors allege he was found at the scene carrying explosives. A lawyer for the suspect said he denied the accusations and would plead not guilty. Authorities said they had finally contained the fire after a second-day flare-up that completely destroyed the lower house National Assembly chamber. Fire initially broke out on Sunday, causing the partial collapse of the roof of the old wing, which dates back to 1884 and houses the upper chamber. At least 16 people have been killed in Colombia's Arauca province amid fighting between illegal armed groups. Colombia's President Ivan Duque said he has ordered the deployment of 2 battalions to support the job of territorial control. Fighting broke out over the weekend in Arauca as members of the National Liberation Army fought with dissidents of the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. 12 families were also displaced as a result of the violence. Hong Kong's leader Carrie Lam said she could not accept suggestions that press freedom in the city faces extinction.
Nothing is more important than the rule of law in Hong Kong.
She was speaking at a weekly news conference as another independent online outlet, Citizen News, ceased operations in the face of what it described as a deteriorating media environment. That came just days after police raided the online media outlet Stand News and arrested 7 people, including senior editors. French government officials have vowed to enact a law to block unvaccinated people from hospitality venues by mid-January. European Affairs Minister Clément Beaune told a television channel that January the 15th remains the goal for the law to come into force. The legislation will effectively bar unvaccinated people from hospitality venues or trains in the country. Wild conditions sweeping across the coast of 2 Australian states in the aftermath of ex-tropical cyclone Seth have forced multiple beaches to remain closed. An eyewitness captured a massive wave rolling across South Golden Beach in New South Wales state, completely submerging sand dunes located behind it. And here locals tried to help a man save his vehicle on a beach in Queensland. 4 beekeepers have been detained in Chile following a protest calling for government support for their industry. Protesters geared with protective devices placed wooden beehives with thousands of bees inside outside La Moneda government palace. 7 police officers were stung as they tried to remove the beehives placed by the protesters to block a main thoroughfare. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Let's now join Victor Matthias, who's standing by with the latest in the world of sports.
Thank you, Ayo, and welcome to Sports News. Now, the Super Eagles of Nigeria have concluded training in Abuja and will now depart for Cameroon on Wednesday for the Africa Cup of Nations, which will kick off on Sunday, January the 9th. At the team press conference earlier today in Abuja, interim coach Austin Agwavon rules the opportunity of not getting friendly matches for the team, which would have given him the opportunity to feed in more local-based players. The Eagles will play in Group D alongside Egypt, Guinea-Bissau, and Sudan.
I've always been an advocate of home-based players, and when I was announced to be the coach of this team, and the final list was going to be submitted on the 29th of December, and our league started when? 17th, 18th? Good. Late Keshi, may so rest in peace, had a couple of home-based in his team then. They had a whole lot of friendly games within and outside the country. And if I take like 2 or 3 or 4 home-based players, I know that are capable of playing right now, and there is no friendly game to do anything, it might backfire.
And that's a wrap on Sports News. It's back to Ayotunde with the rest of the news at 10. I'm Victor Matthias.
Many thanks, Victor. State police is not an option for President Muhammadu Buhari, who believes that we must return to the traditional institutions if security is going to be or become more local. In an exclusive interview with Channels Television at the State House, the president said he wants the traditional rulers and state governors to do more.
Well, you see, the role of traditional rulers must not be undermined, because in their areas, as I said, they know who is who. even by families, not even talk of individuals. So we have to revert to that system for us to have an effective security in the localities. For example, there were two governors that came to see me about problem, Imo State and one other state. I said, because the herders were in their forests, but the animals were going into the neighboring farms and eat the crop. I said, as far as I know, the farmers and the herders have been coexisting in Nigeria. Let them go and ask the local leadership what has gone wrong, why the break in communication between the local leadership and the herders that come on seasonal basis, the route they follow, the forest they confine themselves to. Why are they now extending into the farms of people? I just sent them back because these things haven't been happening this year or last year or 10 years ago. For generations, people have been living like that.
So the state policing is not an option?
No, state police is not an option. Now, find out now the relationship between local government and the governors. Are they getting, at the third tier of government, are they getting what they are supposed to get constitutionally? Are they getting it? Try and see those people from local government that have confidence in you to tell you the truth, the fighting between local government and the governors.
The full interview with President Muhammadu Buhari will be airing tomorrow at 7 p.m. Please join us. And the main news again. The Lagos-Magodo Phase 2 estate crisis today turned awry as the Residents Association protested a police presence, but Governor Sanwo-Olu moved in to douse the tension as he invited all parties to a meeting tomorrow for talks. And on a programming note, well, there will be a delayed broadcast of the Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike's visit to Ogoni land today, immediately after this news bulletin, and that's at 11 p.m. Our previously rescheduled repeat broadcast of Political Paradigm will now be transmitted on Thursday, that's January the 6th, 2022, at 11 p.m. Please stay tuned. And that's the news at 10. Many thanks for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. On behalf of all of us here, it's good night.